My life is boring. I'm a student at a boring university in a boring town. In my free time, I usually sit in my tiny boring student room with my boring computer, having to listen to my boring roommate and her boring boyfriend's loud conversations. For a long while, I have felt that my life is too routine. I do the same boring shit every day. I felt need for more excitement in my life. Since I was 15, I have always been interested in places that most people do not really know of. Places that have stood abandoned for many years. Places that, if you enter them, you stand the risk of getting arrested. Reading about these places on Reddit always excited me. I wanted to go to them. I wanted the adrenaline and fear that came with them. Watching other people on YouTube exploring old hotels, warehouses, malls, or even bowling alleys made me jealous. I watched people getting chased by dogs or cops, people finding creepy items or encountering homeless addicts. And that only made me want to visit an abandoned place more. Because my life was so boring, the adrenaline was very alluring to me. And so I did some research. I had been a student at my university for a couple of months. I was in a new town with new places to explore. After doing some googling, I found out that there in fact was an abandoned place where I live, not too far from me. Of course I was intrigued. I needed to spice up my life, and unlike other people my age, I did not want to do that by partying or hooking up. I wanted to spice my life up by adding some danger to it. From what I read, the place did not seem that special. It was not an entire hotel or some mall. It was only an old underground tunnel that used to be a passage for car traffic. It felt like the perfect place for a beginner to explore. It had not been in use for over 20 years, and it seemed that not that many urban explorers had been there before. I have some friends, but none of them would ever be interested in putting themselves in danger just to seek some thrill. My friends are the kind of people who like to sit in a circle while drinking and playing games. That can be fun, of course, but it's not very exciting. So I went alone. Stupid decision, I know. I'm a young and short female who decided to go on an abandoned place after dark on my own. I was naive and thought that nothing could ever happen to me. But something did. And after my experience, you best believe that I will not explore alone, or at all, ever again. It was Saturday night when I decided to take my bike and go to the tunnel. With me, I brought a flashlight, an army knife, pepper spray, and my camera. At least I brought some protection, right? But that didn't help me from getting traumatized, maybe for life. It had already gotten dark, and before leaving I checked the time on my computer monitor. It was 22:04, so not that late. This was during autumn though, so the natural light had run out for the day. I left my room and locked the door after me. My roommate is a nice girl, but I don't fully trust her yet. When I left, she had the door to her room open, as always, and therefore saw me leaving. I didn't tell her where I was going, only that I was going to take a walk. Once I got out of my apartment building, I unlocked my bike and started my journey towards the tunnel. I had found the coordinates online and I was finding my way to them with the help of Google Maps on my phone. I had to bike through a wooded area. The path was not lit up. The only reason that I could see anything was because of my bike lights. It was scary, but I enjoyed the fear. At least I was feeling something. I thought it was great. I already felt more alive and I hadn't even reached my destination yet. Suddenly, my GPS said to turn left into the woods. It would have been impossible to take my bike because there was no path and the terrain did not seem friendly. Therefore, I left my bike on the path and locked it. I turned the bike light off and suddenly I was standing in complete darkness. The only sound was the wind blowing the leaves and some ruffling of trees from a deer or something. I took a deep breath and turned on the flashlight that I had brought with me. It was a cheap flashlight, and the light it emitted was far from satisfactory. I could really only see a couple of meters in front of me. Nothing scary had really happened yet, but I felt uneasy. I started to regret coming here, but I thought that I might as well go to the tunnel. Quickly, I started to make my way through the forest. I felt scared and sort of observed. In reality, I knew that no one was out there. It was 10:30 at night, in the middle of the forest on a Saturday. No one was crazy enough to take a stroll at this time. Except for me, I guess. Eventually, I reached the tunnel. If I wasn't scared before, I definitely was now. The inside of the tunnel was dark and seemed to go on forever. The outside was covered with demonic symbols and, of course, phallic objects spray painted on the wall. Above the tunnel, someone had written "Stay out or die" in red paint. None of this made me want to leave though. I just figured that some more teenagers from the town had painted it. To be fair, there was not a lot to do around here. And with that, I entered the tunnel. The ground in there was slightly moist, and I could hear dripping sounds around me. Stupidly enough, I was wearing sneakers and the dirty liquid from the ground made them soaked right away. I still kept going. I would just clean the shoes later. The graffiti from outside the tunnel continued on the tunnel walls, with more cryptic symbols and warnings. I kept going, knowing that this was something that was common in abandoned places. The tunnel was not that interesting, to be honest. Sure, it was thrilling being there at night, but there were not a lot of things to discover. A pit started to form in my stomach. I did not really know why. Nothing had happened to make me scared, but something just did not feel right. I shined my light on one of the tunnel walls and immediately jumped back. I thought I had seen a ghost or something, but after looking at the wall, I could see that it was just a demonic looking face painted on there. I chuckled a little to myself. How could something so stupid have scared me like that? I must have really been on edge. My relief was quickly gone when I shined my flashlight on the ground in front of the face. There, on the ground, I could see some dirty blankets and a pillow. At the time, I couldn't understand why it was there, but it definitely freaked me out a bit. Was someone living in this tunnel? I started to feel very uneasy again, and I wanted to leave. I took a picture of the face and the bed, just to document that I had been there, and I started walking towards the exit. That is when I heard footsteps coming into the tunnel. That was scary enough, but what made it worse was that they came from the direction I had come from. The direction which was my way out. I froze for a second, not knowing what to do. Eventually, before the person could get any closer, I snapped out of my haze and started running the other way, further into the tunnel. This seemed like my best option at the time, and knowing what I know now, I can confirm that it was. When I started running, so did the other person. I could hear the footsteps speeding up behind me. And while running, I started to take my army knife out of my pocket. I know that running with a knife is dangerous, but at least I could protect myself if the person caught up to me. The tunnel was not as long as I thought, and eventually I reached the other end. I kept running. At that moment, I thought that I had to get back to my bike, so I started going through the forest. During my run, at various moments, I could swear that I heard branches breaking around me. It might have been paranoia though, because it would not have seemed possible for the person to catch up to me at this point. When I found the path where my bike stood again, I felt a small sense of relief. Once I reached the bike, I quickly unlocked it and raced home. Not until I'd reached my apartment building did I start to calm down slightly. That is when I noticed a note in my bicycle basket. I put my bike away and ran into my dorm room with the note in hand. I was still in a state of shock at this point. Had someone really just chased me? Why did I put myself in such danger? Slowly, I opened up the note. The contents of it were short but terrifying. Hello, pretty girl. I have not yet met you, but I am excited to do so. The fact that this was left in my bicycle basket means that this person must have been somewhere in the forest, observing me while I left my bike. If not, how did they know that I was a girl? The note wasn't exactly threatening, but with context, it was definitely jarring. This person had been by themselves in the forest at night, observing me and then following me. Thank God I noticed their footsteps in time. Otherwise, I might not have been writing this right now.